Among a series of events to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Vietnam-Sweden diplomatic tie on March the 18th, the State Secretary for Foreign Affairs of Sweden, Mr. Belfrage, paid his first official visit to Vietnam, helping to boost the country relation in multi fields. Significant achievements were recorded in the bilateral tie between Vietnam and Sweden in past year. Among a series of events to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Vietnam-Sweden diplomatic tie, Mr. Belfrage, the State Secretary for Foreign Affairs of Sweden, paid official visit to Vietnam early this week. He affirmed the chances for both nations to boost trade and economic tie, especially with the prospect of concluding the Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement negotiations as soon as this October. The State Secretary for Foreign Affairs of Sweden revealed outstanding outcomes of his working session with the Vietnam's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ha Kim Ngọc. He congratulated Vietnam on being appointed member of the United Nations Human Rights Committee between 2014 and 2016 and regarded this as a chance for Vietnam, Sweden and other nations to continue open exchanges and initiatives in enhancing human rights protection. Both sides appreciated the fact the Vietnam-Sweden relation has switched the focus from development relation in early years to trade, investment, tourism, culture, and people-to-people exchange.
We have also some very important developments in the sense of buying products which are Vietnamese products which are sold on the Swedish market, such as garments, clothing, textile. The well-known Swedish group H&M are buying a lot here in Vietnam. That's very important. But we also see the rapid technological developments in the world making it possible for Sweden and Vietnam to cooperate further.
Bilateral trade between Vietnam and Sweden has grown an average 28% per annum in the past 3 years and reached more than $1 billion in 2013. Their cooperation has covered various fields like healthcare, education, science and technology, legal support, administrative reform, environment, and responding to climate change. The chances for Vietnam and Sweden to expand their cooperation are huge. Currently, some 50 Swedish companies are operating in Vietnam, including big ones like Ericsson, Electrolux, Tetra Pak, IKEA. It's expected that more Swedish businesses will come to Vietnam in the years to come. The Swedish State Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Belfrage, said once the Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement negotiation is finalized, there will be a new boost for Vietnam and Sweden trade and investment relation. The European Union is topping the list of Vietnam exporting market. Mr. Belfrage emphasized the position will be strengthened further thanks to FTA conclusion, and will facilitate Vietnam in accessing the 500 million consumer market in Europe. In the meantime, European businesses can introduce technologies and solutions for the potential Vietnamese market with more than 90 million people. He also recommends Vietnam open its market further, create more room for healthy competitions to boost productivity, enterprise development, and economic growth. On the occasion of the Swedish State Secretary for Foreign Affairs' visit to Vietnam, Vitv reporter had a talk with him, who highlighted major developments in Vietnam-Sweden relation and new boosts for the trade and economic tie when the Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement is finalized later this year. More to follow. Mr. Belfrage, first of all, thank you so much for joining our program today on Vitv channel. Can you inform our audience of the major outcomes of your visit to Vietnam this time?
Yes, the reasons are twofold. First is that we have a conference of all the Swedish ambassadors in Asia who are gathered here in Hanoi for their yearly meeting, and we have had a chance to discuss matters of mutual interest. And then secondly, I'm here also to meet my counterparts in the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and others to mark the 45th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Vietnam and Sweden back in 1969, 45 years ago.
We all know that economic and trade tie has been the pillar for Vietnam and Sweden economic relation in the past 45 years. Bilateral trade has reached more than $1 billion in 2013. What are the new directions for the two countries to boost trade in the coming time?
Well, the relations have been evolving in a very satisfactory manner. We have gradually shifted the emphasis from the time when main emphasis was on development cooperation, financial aid, to now a relationship which is much more marked with trade, investment, people to people. We have a very satisfactory development of tourism. There are around 30,000 Swedes which every year visit Vietnam, which is a beautiful country, and the tourists are attracted by the beauty of the country. The trade developments are doing quite well, and by now Vietnam has a very significant trade surplus on Sweden. We are customers of Vietnam in terms of telecommunication equipment, seafood, garment, textile, shoes, and we are selling to Vietnam turbines, lorries, and we are also selling telecommunication, heavy machinery, and therefore we have a very good complementary cooperation between the two markets. But the very important thing which is going to happen now, which will give a further boost to our trade relations, will be the finalization, hopefully later this year, of a free trade agreement between the European Union and Vietnam. That will be very important.
Some major Swedish companies such as Electronics and Ericsson has made appearance in Vietnam for many years. Can you assess of their operations in Vietnam in the past years?
The Vietnamese market is developing in a very impressive way. You have some extraordinarily good and positive growth figures. So the economy of Vietnam is developing very quickly, and therefore also the enterprises such as the one you have mentioned find themselves able to contribute to the development of Vietnam's economy in a very good mutual relationship.
And finally, the seventh round of free trade agreement negotiations between Vietnam and European will take place within this week. What are the chances for Vietnam and Sweden to boost their trade tie once the free trade agreement is concluded?
Well, we will hope that the negotiations between the EU and Vietnam for creating a free trade agreement will be finalized after the summer, in the autumn, and I think that will give further important boost to the trading relations between the two groups. And at the same time, we should not forget that ASEAN has the ambitious goal of fulfilling its own single market by 2015, next year. So the combination of ASEAN free trade and EU-Vietnam free trade agreement, and then also EU-ASEAN working together jointly, will be to mutual benefit of all the participant actors in this free trade agreement, which will be good for employment, good for growth, and good for the welfare development of our societies.
And thank you so much for joining our program today.